My friends, today what I want to talk to you about, it is what is home for you? What is home for you and where is it? It's a complicated question because I ask you right now, or if you're in my therapy room, you would say, it's with my family, it's with my friends, it's with my children, it's with my spouse. Some of you will say it's with my parents. Whether you're a child or an adult child, certainly that'll be your answer. Some of you will say work. Now the question then becomes a bit more complicated. If I were to ask you, where do you feel most alive? What makes you excited? Where do you know that you're in a flow state and just existing without having to think and you're just being? And what you're being is the best part of yourself, where your talent, your love, your connective energy gets to be seen and spread in the world. Some of you, that might be painting, but it's a deeply spiritual thing. Now, for me, it's interesting because what I'm talking about is flow states. So many years ago, the University of Toronto did a study on therapists who enter flow states during their sessions. And I was selected to be someone studied. Now, I didn't apply for this. This is just based on reputation on during the therapy sessions, who's alive, who's in the zone. How is this person so connected to the other person that they know what's going on in their head and then offer solutions that are so real and practical where they know the thoughts of the other person. Now, some of this for me is trauma rooted. Trauma might not be the right word. Where it comes from, in my case, is being the child of a schizophrenic, where studies were done on children like me, and 17% of us developed this skill of knowing what other people are thinking or feeling or highly intuitive. Now, with that, I get to enter a flow state, especially in a helping context. So for me, where I come alive is in the therapy room, and it's a place that I feel is home. I like to come to it. I take care of it. The physical space, if you see it, it's not immaculate, but it's good enough because I know what defines the flow state is an internal process. I got to be ready. I got to be of right mind. These flow states for you and for me, the place that we call home inside of our soul, our vocation, it's part of our purpose. That's not to say that a wife and children aren't part of your purpose. They are. And for some of you, that's going to be your flow state. But those environments for me are much more give and take. There's much more reciprocity. The goals are a bit different because they're multidimensional. But in the therapy room, it's very clear. For me in a flow state, I am here to help you. Think of it in sports. We together are working together to achieve a common goal, which is to get the ball in the end zone. You know, if you're on the offensive side in football, if you're a goalie, it's keep the puck out. But as a team, you're trying to win. For me, winning is improvement in people's lives. Not only improvement, but rapid improvement as fast as possible. Because why prolong suffering, especially when it's unnecessary? But what I've learned about these flow states is that many of us just expect to have it handed to us, that we don't want to fight for the territory. It's almost like if you're just given land and just believe it should be yours for no reason other than the fact that you were there first and that everyone should just have it, understood that it's yours. Think of it as like a business. I'm the first coffee shop in town. Starbucks shouldn't be allowed to come here, or Tim Hortons or whatever. Part of our flow states is we have to fight for our territory. We have to fight for our existence. We have to fight for our boundary lines. Why do we have to do that? Why can't it just be given to us? This is what I like to do. Just let me do it. Wasn't France worth more because you had to fight for it? That's an expression that was used many years ago when the Brits were fighting for territory. If it was just handed to them, it wouldn't be worth so much, would it? So much of our dating life is somewhat similar, isn't it? The person you're dating just on the first date just says, okay, let's get married. You don't really know me yet, but I'm ready. There's no interaction. There was no struggle. There was no getting to know you. There was no personal growth. In our flow states, we need to be pushing. Imagine parenting where we don't have to learn about our children and the challenges that go when you see them suffer, especially on account of our own decisions, even if we think it's for their well-being. So these flow states require territorial battle, even though we don't feel like we should have to. Think of the musician that's like, I'm a good musician. Why can't I just be on Spotify? Why can't I just go on tour? It's not because of competition. It's not because there's millions of other musicians. You can have a flow state while you're doing it. But there's that battle for the territory to build appreciation, to build gratitude, to really test, are you really who you say you are? Are you really a musician? Will you do it for nothing? Will you do it for free? Will you just go play open mics because you love it? Or do you only want to do it so you could be a star? That's not a flow state, just to want to be a star. Many people become that, but they're not real artists. Think of the manufactured groups or boy-girl bands of yesteryear. So flow states require hard work. They test our will. They test, do we want to put the money, energy, sweat, tears as we get better? Or we have a show and no one shows up? Or I put a sign on the wall saying, come to this therapy clinic and no one shows up? Are we say who we actually are? Are we who we actually say we are? Many years ago, before I started doing this for pay, I would do it for nothing. as a volunteer. Not a volunteer therapist, I would just volunteer downtown and sit with people. I got into the habit of talking with homeless populations. I got to learn about myself through those interactions. I got to learn about them too. It answers the question is, am I living who I say I am? I fight for my territory. I fight for my place in this space. And I'm brand new to doing this online because I've never needed to fight for my space. But what motivated me was the flow states or fake flow states that I see other people speaking in areas where they have no expertise, no soul into it, no skin in it. They don't have clients. They just have a YouTube channel. They've never made impact. They just make reference to stories that sound artificial. I'm here to tell you to be in a flow state is to embody it, to be the thing, to be the instrument, to be one with the activity that you're engaged in, to not stand on the sidelines like a true physician, to be right in the thick of the muck, mire, and disease and poison, not on the outskirts, not, from the distance from the stage to the nosebleeds. It has to be you in the front row. What I'm saying about me is true about you, whether you're an accountant, a musician, working at Walmart, or if your thing is parenting, because you have to bring this flow state everywhere you go. It's not like you could turn it off. The challenge in life is to be in perpetual flow state. Bring it to your friends, be in the zone with them. Bring it to your work, be in the zone. When there's suffering, be there in the suffering and the pain. I'm thinking of relatives who've died, and I had the privilege of being there when they took their last breath, to be there, not to pacify it, but to exist in the horror, to exist in what is happening, to be an agent that's alive. Without these flow states, without being in the zone, it's almost like we're coasting through life. And this coasting is like, like this malaise that you see in people. Do you like your job? Do you like your family? They're there. I've been with them a long time. I don't want to change it. What an awful state, mental state to be in. I don't want to change it because, I'm dependent on them for money. Then I'd have to make life changes where I'd have to work and then be more engaged with myself. Or I don't like my career. I'm just going to stay in it just because of the money. Hear all the fear. You can't be afraid and be in a flow state at the same time. I'm thinking of a book I read recently by John Wooden. He was being questioned about why isn't his best players taking the final shot at the end of this basketball game? It's a tough decision. The game's on the line. Who's going to take the shot? And he asked a player, not the best, to take the shot. And the difference between the two was the best player would often, if he missed, suck out. His self-worth depended on the success of that ball going in the net. That's a lot of pressure. It's almost like saying, I'm only going to play if I'm going to win. Or I want to take the shot because I want to be a star. But if I don't, then I'm garbage and I'm trash. I'm not saying that player isn't in a flow state, but when you're thinking about the stage of life where you should be performing, and the question is, am I called to be in this situation right now or not? Sometimes the best player is not the guy who takes the game-winning shot. It's someone who exists in a different flow state. The one who's going to say, I love playing this game. I love to live life. I love to play this music. I love to crunch numbers. I like to serve people. I like to organize. And they do so with everything they have in them. But even if they fail, it does not destroy them. It doesn't cause them to suck out. What they can do is look at it in the face and say, I did my best. I was in the zone and no one makes every shot and I was okay. That's what it means to take the spot and stage in life in a flow state, to be in the zone. It doesn't guarantee success. All it guarantees is joyfulness, whether you succeed or not, because you put everything you had into it without hesitation. And it doesn't matter how many times you're on the stage, it's worth it. I'm thinking of a pitcher that only throws one inning a game. That's a lot of dedication to a craft for 10 throws. And who knows how well he's going to do. It doesn't really matter. What matters is being what he's called to be, using his talent the way it's meant to be used, using his emotional energy to reveal who he is. That, my friends, is a flow state.